Hey folks, James Abrenio coming to you from Abrenio Law. And in this video, I wanted to talk about an interesting issue, one that came up recently in a jury trial I just had. And frankly, pretty much every jury trial that I have, this issue comes up. And it's one issue that I always have to tell clients that they have to be aware about. And so the title of this video is So You Think There Are Too Many Lawsuits in America. Um, if you have any feeling about it, you probably have a feeling one way or the other. And it's likely that if you're watching this video, even if you're somebody that's injured, you probably think that America has too many lawsuits. We're too much of a litigious country, that we need, quote, tort reform. You've probably heard the term ambulance chaser, and you probably think that every lawyer that represents people injured in personal injury law, again, unless it's your own case, are ambulance chasers, and that we're all trying to take advantage of society. At the end of the day, too many lawsuits is bad for the country. And the purpose of putting this video out for the people that do watch it is really to ask you to challenge yourself when you're thinking about what tort reform is, and how it has come in our society that we believe that there's a need for tort reform. And the biggest issue that and the biggest example that I often use is, if you recall, the old infamous McDonald's hot coffee case. And what I've got here is, this is an article that I printed off recently from Vox News. And as you can see, it's dated December 26th of 2016. And if you've heard anything about the hot coffee cup case, you've likely heard some version of essentially a woman that was involved in an accident where she's driving down the road, spills some coffee on her lap, and decides that she's going to sue and get millions of dollars. And that's what ends up happening. When in reality, the facts of that case are actually a lot more horrific. And I will be posting the link to this article in the show notes here. But I'm sure I think there's a documentary, I think it might be on Netflix now, about this case. But essentially, the purpose of talking about this is really to acknowledge and to hopefully get people thinking about how our commercial industry, our insurance industry, has really changed the discussion about what should be happening versus what has happened. And because of a lot of the marketing savvy, the public are left with the opinion that if you are seeking a personal injury suit, that you're an ambulance chaser, the lawyers are an ambulance chaser, that you're just trying to make a quick buck. When the reality is, in many of these cases, and I'm not saying that every single case that comes into court is with merit. There are cases without merit, just like any case, in any field of law. There are cases that are not proper, but oftentimes there are many cases that are overlooked. And so the interesting part about this article is it actually walks you through many of the salient facts of the case that are super important for you to be aware about. And give me just a second. Let me see. Yeah, so that's a little bit easier. So this case outlines many of the important facts of the case, which you're probably not aware of. First important fact, the plaintiff, Miss Layback, and I'm probably mispronouncing her name, she was actually 79 years old. Her grandson drove her to McDonald's, and when the accident happened, she was actually parked in her car when the coffee spilled. Now, again, she acknowledged fault for spilling the coffee, but the issue is McDonald's at this point was serving dangerously hot coffee, 190 degrees Fahrenheit, and the injuries in that case wasn't just some little, sunburn type burn. This was third-degree burns in her legs and genital areas, and she literally almost died and had to get serious treatment as a result of this. What's even more egregious is that McDonald's made aware of the dangerousness of their coffee. As you can see here, they received over 700 reports of people burning themselves, and despite that, they kept serving coffee at this dangerously hot level. Remarkably, it looks like the plaintiff there, Miss Liebeck, who was seeking recovery, was just trying to get her medical bills paid. And McDonald's only offered $800, and it looks like her expenses at that time, which When it comes to medical bills, $20,000 for serious surgeries. If we're looking at that in 2022 numbers, when I'm 2022 dollars is what I'm shooting this video, that's kind of absurd. I guarantee you the same treatment now is going to be $50,000 or $100,000. And they offered $800 to settle. She ended up putting it in front of a jury, and the jury ended up awarding her $2.9 million. And that was after hearing the entire evidence. And she ended up only settling for $600,000 and essentially asking that the changes be made to the heat of McDonald's coffee. And look, I'm a McDonald's fan. I went there this weekend. I've got nothing against McDonald's, but what I have a problem with is when a business causes injury, they don't pay up for the injury. And in cases like this, where it's clear that the insurance industry, the business industry went out of their way to sell the public because businesses were worried about getting sued. And what's also interesting about this article, it talks about essentially what the industries have been doing in order to avoid having to pay out injury suits. So here they talk about groups like Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse. Essentially, they're there to sell the public on the need for, quote, tort reform. And as you can see, at least in this article, the average payout for personal injury is only $55,000. And that inherently means that there's a lot of cases that don't get paid out at all. So that's really just an average. So the reason I point this out is if you have a personal injury claim, number one, you have to be aware that juries come to these cases with these baggage based upon our marketing, essentially, of businesses and industry. So you have to be aware of that. But if you're a juror, I'm hoping you're watching this video and you're a potential juror. Not obviously, if you're sitting as a jury, you're not supposed to be doing research. But if you're a citizen, you may end up serving on a jury. I hope that you think about this video because it's super important. Because at the end of the day, it's essentially a trick on our society about how effective lawsuits can be. For you that study history, civil rights lawsuits are what got things changed. And that's the reason I became a lawyer. But injury lawsuits are super important to get companies to behave well. Now, another interesting article I wanted to bring up, and this is also done by Vox. I actually saw this article first, and then it led me to the other Vox article. This article was written back in July of 2015. And the title is "We Don't Say Plane Accident. Why we shouldn't say car accident either." And I'll again post a link to this article as well. But this article points out the fact that essentially when the auto industry was formed, because accidents happen, we all recognize as a society that automobiles are dangerous. And in order to sell more cars, the auto industry essentially worked on the language that we used in society. And instead of using crashes and things like that, we essentially turned it into using the language of accident. And here on page 3 of 7 of this article, and again, I'll send you the link, it talks about the National Automobile Chamber of Commerce and Industry Group established a free wire service for newspapers. Reporters could send in basic details of traffic collisions and would get in return complete articles to print for the next day. And these articles printed widely shifted blame for the crashes to pedestrians, almost always use the word accident. And the reason the term accident is important is it essentially implies that nothing could have been stopped to cause the accident, to prevent the accident. And, as late as 2006, the New York Times reported that the driver of an SUV intentionally ran over 5 people in Long Island before fleeing the scene of the accident. And again, the point of this is when we're thinking about, and I want to be clear too, a lot of my marketing material and articles that I write, I talk about car accident. I think I refer to myself as a car accident attorney. I as an attorney have even bought into the language. But my point is we have to be very, very conscious of the language that we use, and also have to be very, very aware that there are industries working on us to train us to believe certain things. So when it comes time to make decisions, we're already bought in. So just going back to my example of concerns I have at jury trials, there's something called voir dire where I get a chance to ask potential jurors about biases they have. And I always ask, does anybody believe that there's a need for tort reform? Does anybody believe that there are too many lawsuits in America? Has anybody heard the term ambulance chaser? And a lot of times people are kind of, at first, they giggle a little bit. They may flash a smile across the face, but then I have to dig deeper. Hey, the purpose of a jury is to get fair, unbiased jurors. We need to talk about these things. As I probe them more, oftentimes you have multiple jurors saying there are just too many lawsuits. And when I say, well, what's your basis for that? It's based upon a feeling. There's not data based upon that. They don't say, well, I've done, objective data studies. It's the feeling. And a lot of these feelings are because of these news stories we read, these marketing things that we read. I did a video recently about, if you look at car insurance commercials, they're great at talking about jokes and making us laugh, talking about saving $15 and 15% in 15 minutes, but you never hear them talk about their actual product, because they don't want you thinking about actually using the insurance to actually make a claim. Because I can tell you, most personal injury cases that we deal with, that I've seen in my career, it's usually somebody like you that has never dealt with a personal injury attorney, never wanted to be involved in the injury. And they say to me, James, if you could just make me better, I'd take it all back and not get a dollar. But they end up having to go the lawsuit route because insurance companies won't play fair. So think about that. I want you to be thinking about these things and thinking about it critically. And if you're involved in a lawsuit and you end up sitting on a jury, hopefully you're thinking about this video. If you're a potential client of mine or you're a client of mine, again, I don't mean to do this video to scare you, but there are realities when it comes to these things that we can't ignore. So before we go, here's my information, my website, my phone number, my email address. There's all of our social media. I'd ask you to comment on this video. Let us know what you think. Share the video. Subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get as much impact as we can. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. And look, I hope this video has been useful. If not now, later on when you potentially are sitting on a jury and you're able to think a little bit more. Maybe this helps you think a little more critically about the situation. But some of you may say, James, you're an idiot. You're an ambulance chaser, and there is absolutely need for tort reform. That's fine too. But I'm just telling you my opinion, and hopefully you at least consider it. So I wish you guys the best. Thanks.